Hey, this is Just Out the Seat. And I just saw American Ultra, and I had a really great time. I started recording a video, and then I ran out of space, so then I had to delete video. So technically it's a second take, even though, I usually try to do it, once straight through, because it's like almost stream of consciousness, which is cool and has its drawbacks. But yeah, now I know I want to say it a little better anyway. So maybe I will benefit from this. Anywho, American Ultra is an action comedy thriller about, it's really easy to decipher, like once you're like 30 minutes in, if you watch enough movies. And I don't want to spoil it for people who want to have the ride. So at the 3-minute mark is when I'm gonna start dropping spoilers. So overall, it's pretty funny. It definitely has that situational awkwardness humor. Jesse Eisenberg is kind of in his element in a way. I guess the closest thing you're gonna get to this is like Michael Cera as a stoner. But the plot isn't like super complex. But it's interesting to see the reactions to things, and you can definitely get carried away in the emotions. I know I cried like pretty tenderly at like 2 parts of the movie, and well, it's easier for me to cry at a movie than some other people, because I really get the feel sometimes, and I can really empathize with characters. And if you're that type of person, then you might have those moments, or at least moments you'll be like, oh my gosh, So I don't think the simplicity of it is necessarily a hindrance, because the movie is such that it gives you hints. It foreshadows a lot, so it actually rewards people with a little insight into narrative pace and what usually happens in stories. Visually, it's great. There's this really great tonal shift visually between like the clean white walls of like the government, and then the kind of yellowish brownish of basically this kind of mundane, comfortable stoner life that the main characters are leading, and eventually it meets in the middle with kind of like this gray tarp over like the black and the gray and the grime. And I think visually it's a really cool reference. It's a really cool distinction between like clean versus comfortable. Maybe I don't want to call those two things opposites, but when you think about like stoners, which you're gonna have to when you think about this movie, there's so much pot smoking in it, then you really gonna make that distinction. And it's really interesting, especially if you use that as an argument against, or maybe not against, an argument to illustrate why it's so hard, or it's been so hard for pot laws to be lax in the U.S., whereas in other countries, it's not. It doesn't need to be medical, like it's free use. But I think DC is free use right now. I meant to start dropping spoilers at the 3-minute mark, but I ended up dropping spoilers at the 4-minute mark. It was pretty easy for me to guess the major plot twists, and I even had moments where I said what I thought would be the next line, and I was right, and I was like, oh, sweet. I know some people are annoyed when that happens, like, man, this movie's so predictable. But like I said, it really rewards you for insight and really trying to think about what people say, because they'll drop hints. They drop hints from like basically the beginning of kind of Jesse Eisenberg talking to the audience, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's his handler. Like, it made total sense, and like it clicked. I know I just shifted gears really quick to this whole government conspiracy thing, or not even conspiracy, it's like a government program to take third strike offenders, people, you know, who like statistically saying they have no future, and use them in a government experiment to make super soldiers. Guess what? And honestly, I'm not going to spend too much time on that main plot point because it's fun, but not necessarily dynamic. I think it speaks more to like the themes of, you know, the government taking advantage of people, and especially the brattiness of the main villain, and kind of how he kind of has power in this kind of superficial way, and he goes a mile with it, and kind of illustrating like not everyone in government is out for the best interests of the people. I think in terms of the themes, the movie works better for that than for like really deep story, though the emotions you feel are really, really nice. Though I think at the very end it kind of deflated me a little bit because it went a little bit. They have a time skip, and after the time skip he's basically a secret agent, and it sets up like they could be a sequel, but at the same time like it cuts away and switches to this gnarly animation. It's actually kind of in canon. Like he draws like this comic that he always talks about throughout the movie, and he becomes a comic like in the very last scene, right as he's about to wreck a whole bunch of people's shit. I think that it threw me off. It really jarred me in like an emotional way, because like right before the time skip or leading up to it, like it still keeps its, you know, funny, but at the same time it has this you know, this emotional and visual presence, this like, you know, very thrillerish, very serious, and the emotional undertone of, you know, they're married now, you know, they went through all this, like, yes, they, you know, they finally realized they loved each other and all that, even though it was undercut by them getting tasered. Basically right before he goes to the time skip is where I would have stopped the movie, though I guess it's not fair because it's a Stern film and they wanted to end it more in a psychedelic way, so I can't blame for that, and it doesn't ruin the movie, I'll say. One other thing I'll say, the action scenes were spot on. They did slow-mo really great. It was a little cheesy with the frying pan thing, but I think it kept the movie, for the most part, kept a good middle ground between its comedy and its like serious emotional parts. So all in all, I'm definitely gonna see it again. Actually, I'm looking at the times. I actually have time to see it again, so I'm actually gonna see it again right now. I liked it that much. Don't judge me. See you later, nerds. Have a good one.